make it. We thought you were not going to come.
Oh,
when we were not seeing you at the time. Right. So, gentlemen, good evening to you once again, and you're welcome. Let me, first of all, ask you that question I promised I was going to ask you, and then I will start the whole discussion with you. What is Ghana International Trade and Finance Conference?
Well, thank you very much, and a very good evening to your cherished viewers. We are humbled to join you on your prominent program this evening to talk strict business, strict trade, and still strict trade finance. Ghana International Trade and Finance Conference, short GITFIC, has been around since 2016. We specialize on issues of trade finance, finance itself, and logistics. These are the four key components that builds GITFIC. And what we do is to annually bring subject matter experts, professionals from all walks of life, especially focusing on our continent, to articulate various ways on issues on trade, trade finance, intra-African trade, and what will project our trading activities on the continent and enhance that to the benefit of the African people. And so for the past 5 years, we've been doing this. Last year, graciously, His Excellency the President had appointed a senior minister who joined the mayor of Accra, AGI, and industry titans to declare Accra as the commercial capital of Africa by the virtue of the Continental Free Trade Area situated here in Accra with its secretariat. And so, I mean, since then, we've been working assiduously. Our research team has been very, very apt and up to task in looking at various issues that borders trade finance, and logistics. And we've been holding a series of monthly research briefings with the press. And once again, we are grateful to Metro, where they are always available when that time comes.
Towards the end of the show, I'm sure we'll get into the details of the program that's coming up and the things you do. But let me come to you. Chonam, Association of Ghana Industries. I mean, early this year, the AFTA was situated here in Ghana, and we all jubilated that we were going to have feel the impact of it here in Ghana, first of all, before other parts of the African continent. Are we feeling it yet? You are the Association of Ghana Industries, and you should be feeling the impacts by now.
Well, thank you, and good evening to your viewers. And thank you for having me on this program. So the AFTA initiative, really brings a great deal of excitement, not only in Africa, but in Ghana particularly, because we are hosting the Secretariat. And so you would have realized that there are several events and programs that are being done to celebrate Ghana being the host of the Secretariat. But be that it may, the whole essence of these agreements really go beyond jamboree and fanfare. The reality of the matter is that this is a big opportunity for us in Africa, for about 53 countries to have a common market area and trade between and among each other.
Right.
And so the issue is whether Ghanaian industry is ready to take advantage of these agreements. So that's really where we are.
Is the Ghanaian industry ready to take the advantage of the instrument?
So it's a mixed bag. On one hand, we seem excited. So the very large companies that are already exporting their products are excited because now they don't have to pay the tariff they would normally pay. But the reality is that a bulk majority of our businesses are SMEs, and they don't have the capacity to be able to export. And so what is needed now is to build capacity for local industries to make them ready to take advantage of the continental free trade. Suffice to say, though, that there are some companies that have started exporting at that agreement. I can mention of Casapreco.
Okay.
I think they've been successful at exporting to the South African market. So at least there's some success to report. But there's a lot of work that ought to be done.
Casapreco had already gone to Nigeria. Casapreco was already transcending the borders of Ghana. So You may want to attribute it to after, but
no, I'm talking about under the trade, benefiting. They've always exported.
With the tariff
Yes.
cuts, with the elimination of the problems and the challenges that they go through usually at the ports.
Yes. So what I'm saying is, the trust of AFTA is that 90% of all dutiable goods and products will be liberalized. So what it means is that if you're exporting to the South African market, you are not going to be paying those tariffs that you normally be paying. So that's a lot of money you're saving. So that's the trust of the AFTA. And I'm saying that at least they have been successful at exporting under the agreement. And really that's worth commending.
I'll come to the point of SMEs and the fact that we are largely raw material producing country as Ghana and even the rest of Africa. But let me come to you, Rahman, from the financial sector. Are we ready to take advantage of AFTA in support for SMEs, as you say, in support for large businesses, for example, to be able to expand their front ends, to be able to build up, to be able to grow the economy as we expect? Are you ready to support the industry, the agricultural sector, or other sectors of the economy?
Okay. Thank you very much, and thank you to your cherished viewers. For us as a bank or a financial institution, we supposed to provide an financial intermediation role for those who are exporting or those who are importing. Like they rightly said, trade can never thrive without an efficient intermediation system.
Exactly.
All right? And as Bank of Africa, we are a Pan-African bank. And as the name implies, we have our footprints across the continent and across the globe. And so, what AFTA would need is a financial institution that is well placed in any of these member countries. And if you want any other bank, any bank that is able to meet this requirement, you cannot go beyond Bank of Africa. All right. So
there are other banks. There is Standard Chartered
Yes.
Bank. There is Stanbic Bank,
Very
Absa
well.
Bank, all
Very
other
well.
banks. But it's the financial sector.
Yes.
As you say, in fact, there is your bank as well.
Exactly.
Which is almost everywhere in Africa.
Exactly.
Are you ready to support the sector? Are you ready?
We
to
are
support
ready,
the
and
industry?
we are already supporting them.
How are you supporting them?
Okay, so for instance, we have people who export to these neighboring countries. And now by exporting to these neighboring countries, they do not have to fold their arms, okay? They need working capital. And by that working capital, what do? We say that whatever receivables that you have at the other side, let us know. Bring us evidence of it, all right? Get the other side committed by way of validating it. And when you come, what we do is that we discount it, we monetize it, and give you cash. And so when we give you cash, we do not do it without, by saying that you should go and bring collateral. We do it without recourse. Okay?
That's a special purpose vehicle you have set up because of AFTA, or it's a product you have already in the system?
We already envisage the continent becoming one. We already envisage that traders should have a product that would enable them trade among ourselves. In African continent, we trade less than 20% among ourselves.
Exactly.
All right? So we
currently signed a pact with the EU. In fact, we have been doing that trade. We have currently signed a pact.
Before AFTA was launched in January, we had gone ahead, our group had gone ahead to make a declaration that trade would become a cornerstone of our operations. So that tells you how our management was thinking strategically. So we are already there, and we'll continue, to leverage on AFTA to make sure that we service our customers.
Yeah, so I'll come back to you on that point, and I'll hold you on the financial challenges that will meet the progression of trade facilitation here in Africa, and the tariffs and all of that. So I'll come back to you and how you intend to solve it. Of course, your bank and the whole of the financial sector. But let me come to you, Chief Executive of a trade and trade finance conference. Are we ready as a nation? Are we ready as a continent? I mean, you have been doing this, and you have had a program before on this. And I'm sure by this time you must have done a retrospection. You have done monitoring and evaluation of the impact of the program you did before, and moving forward, are we ready as a country for or to be able to take advantage of after?
Very well. I mean, the issue of trade is quite exciting, and it comes with its own dynamics. In fact, in our June research paper we presented to the media, I think it bordered on the trade finance role in the AFCFTA, and almost about a 16-page paperwork that was presented to the media somewhere in May. And so we extensively appreciate the role of trade and trade finance in the successful implementation of the AFCFTA. And so probably, just as he said from BOA, we had also projected this way back in 2018. That's what led us in organizing the third Ghana International Trade and Finance Conference at the African Union headquarters in Addis Ababa in 2019 to articulate these ways extensively, where we got everybody on board to extensively look at this. See, we've said that the AFCFTA today as it stands is the blood that flows through the veins of every African.
Is it?
It is, because after political independence, the next thing we looked up for was economic independence.
But do we have that economic independence? We
So,
have a lot of challenges.
Progressive process.
Each country has its own tariff regime. Each country has its own taxation regime. Each country, I mean, by this time, we have been talking about AFTA for a very long time. Before January 1 this year, it came into effect. So even by the time we got AFTA into effect, a lot of things must have been done. We haven't done most of them.
Let me say that probably not too exciting news to your viewers. See, these processes take a lot of time. It could run into decades. We are just scratching the surface of the AFCFTA. And we've done this extensively by comparing the North American trade deal, which is a NAFTA. We've compared the ASEAN, which is a Southern Asian trade deal. We've compared the European Union itself. And we've compared even the Economic Partnership Agreement with various fragmented individual countries across the continent. And we can say in authority that this wouldn't take a 1 year, 2 year, 5 year process to have a complete trade integration across the continent. We've
How
set
many
the
years
ball
do you
rolling.
envisage?
We see, it could take time. We believe that within the next 5 years, we should start seeing a better appreciation of the actual realization of the implementation. Because, see, there are still structural things that need to be done. We have to talk about payments, cross-border payments, because we talk about trade, then you need to talk about cross-border payment. That's one thing. We have language barrier. This morning, for me to even communicate with somebody in Cameroon, I had to use Google translation from English to French. That's a huge barrier out there that needs to be.
But we have known this.
So what has happened differently
Yes.
between even our original bloc, which is ECOWAS, is that they had inculcated the challenges that faced ECOWAS trade bloc into the AFCFTA. So they had overgone certain petty mistakes that we should be seeing or making within the AFCFTA. See, trade has started, and there are still tests. Movement of goods across board here and there. But let's your viewers also understand that the entire agreement is not even fully cooked yet. We are now moving into the services sector. They are now discussing and negotiating something like that. So it's going to take phases. That is why implementers say this is the first phase of the AFCFTA, and we are looking at strengthening the structures, the administrative structures, strengthening, the physical structures, to make sure that by the time we are growing in our experience in the AFCFTA, we may have, phased out all of these challenges. We can do it, and we've been doing it. And I think that this is going to be. Let's look at probably how the NAFTA had gone. That is a North American trade bloc. You understand? Up to now, with all these decades, they are still facing petty challenges. Even in Europe, you and I know now that Britain had fallen out of the European Union agreement, the partnership. And these are guys that have been part of this agreement for all this decade. So, even with this experience that the EU has, a member state will decide to let go at this juncture, tells you that it is not going to be all rosy or flimsy for the AFCFTA. Right now, about 34, 36 countries have ratified. That's why you have a ratification process to go through. And so when you ratify, there's one thing to sign the agreement. And we are different things that the agreement signing is to show your interest. And another thing to ratify the agreement. When you ratify, that means you have agreed to shred your import tariffs, your export tariffs to about 90%, 95%. And then a critical example I always use to people I speak to is that what it means is that if you are going to pay 1 cedi to export to, let's say, Bobo de la Soul, you are going to pay about 10 pesos now, because Burkina Faso is a signatory and a ratifying country to the AFCFTA. So you have 90%, sometimes in some obvious commodities, up to 95% tariff off. So you're going to pay that 10 pesos or 5 pesos to move your cargo there. However, the systems are not going to be that easy. The customs officer in Bobo de la Soul still needs to make his money, because he will not deprive his state immediately of this.
Exactly the point I was going to come
to.
So
it's going to take a lot of time.
COVID is in Ghana, which has the headquarters of AFTA. We have blocked our borders as we speak.
It's going to take a long time.
I mean, we are still importing goods, or we are importing items from the euro.
Yeah, there's trade deficits.
But things cannot come in from Togo. Some things cannot come in from Burkina Faso. And we are still talking about AFTA. But I'll come to you again on that. You spoke about the SMEs, that we have too many SMEs here in Ghana.
Yes.
How are you as an association making sure that these SMEs get the support? Rahman is talking about the financing agreements and the financing arrangements they are making available. You take advantage of it to make sure that they're able to expand their businesses, they're able to produce more and export as an association.
Okay, thank you. So AFTA naturally brings two groups of people, winners and losers. So the winners are the folks that are ready, at least with some products that are exportable and that are actually able to take advantage of the agreement as it is now. A lot more people have to now prepare in order to produce, to supply internationally. The bulk majority of our members, as I mentioned, are SMEs. These are typically very small businesses, say about 8 to 10 workers. So like the woman in Tamale who is producing shea butter. The reality is that most of these SMEs have the local market as their target. So if you're introducing an international dimension, it will require a new dimension to their business, which may take them some time. And so,
if you're introducing an international dimension, they would obviously require the financing, but they would require technology as well. They would require training as well. They would require exposure, a market area. Now they have the whole of Africa as a market space, and you will need to put them into that thought process. You will need to train them into that line. You will need to help them build their technological space, their technological platforms. Are you doing that?
So that's exactly where I'm coming to.
Right.
So two things. Number one, we just finished completing a portal, Kadodo Africa, Kadodo Africa, kadodoafrica.com. And so, of course, if you're an SME listening, you should definitely go and register, because at least it's free for now. Register your business, and because it essentially profiles companies' products, services, but also authenticate it in order to benefit from the continental free trade.
Right.
And this will be available, this portal will be available for SMEs across the country so that their product can be visible internationally. But also, you realize that the financing system in Ghana is largely commercial.
Interest rates.
Rather than industrial. So, if you want to go to a bank to borrow money now, typically the tenure will be for a year, 2 years, 6 months. But these monies cannot do industry. Industry requires long-term money, 20 years, 25 years. And obviously this is patience money. And most of our banks are not doing this. So it's making it very difficult for SMEs to grow. Besides, even if you're able to access these monies, the interest rates are very high. Today, you'll be lucky if you have 24% interest rate, meaning you are one of the luckiest companies. But in South Africa,
I actually heard a bank promoting a product today, and their interest rate of 23%, they were happy about it.
Yes.
And boasting about it, that we are providing an interest rate of 23%.
But in the real international scheme of things, that is unacceptable. Because you see, if you go to South Africa today, you'll be getting on average of 12%. In fact, countries like Mauritius, 6%.
And that's where I come to, that you are going to compete with all of these economies where there is differences. I'll come to you on that, Raman.
So I'm saying that, what I'm saying is that our SMEs, our businesses have to deal with these realities. But even the bigger of it is that most of these money are not accessible. How many SMEs in Ghana can walk to a bank and access money? It's almost difficult. So we're talking about accessibility, and we're talking also about the cost of money. You recall that about a month or so ago, the central bank came out and reduced the policy rate.
Yes, the MPC rate.
I can assure you that that day, if you speak to a chief executive of a commercial bank, they would mention to you that nobody has called them for loan, because the policy rate is not necessarily affecting the rate at which people go for financing. Because there's a fundamental bottleneck, is that accessibility has to be worked on. You are asking people for collateral which they don't have. So we're saying that the business environment is quite harsh. We require a lot of work to make it more friendly and make it a business ready in order that we can take advantage of the continental free trade. Suffice to say that government over the years have been doing a lot of efforts. Currently, there's a program, development bank, that is being set up by the government. Great idea for industry. We're in full support of it, because at least they envisage giving a long-term money for industry to expand. But we want to see more of these efforts, because that's the only way we can be ready to compete between and among nations in Africa. The last thing I'd like to
make on that point.
Make on that point is that about 70% of all products we use in Ghana are imported, whether raw materials or finished product. That's not good for an economy like ours. If you want to compete, you need to produce. We need to minimize the importation of finished product and promote local industry in order that we can not only satisfy our local market, but also export. And I'm saying these are the issues we need to confront if we need to be ready to deal and to take advantage of the Continental Free Trade Agreement.
Let me come to you, Raman. I mean, this whole discussion is centered on you. I hope you agree with that. That if we don't have effective financing from what Chonam says, we have lots of SMEs. That's more than the very large corporate entities we have in Ghana. And so you cannot, even though you have envisaged that trade was going to expand in Africa and that you need to sponsor trade, you need to sponsor the SMEs as well. Do you have Bank of Africa, of course, and the commercial banks, all other commercial banks here in Ghana, including, well, the mother of all banks, Bank of Ghana? Are you planning towards the SMEs to fund them? Of course, government, as he says, has planned or has even started setting up the development bank, which is going to give long-term financing agreements or loans or arrangements. Are you ready, and are you supporting in that line? Are you looking at the SME tangent?
Very well. The SMEs constitute majority of the portfolio of businesses in Ghana and Africa as a whole. So if you are a business, if you are a bank or a financial institution that do not have plans to support SMEs, you don't have future. The future lies in the development of SMEs. And when you started, talking about SMEs, what are they doing, AGI doing to increase their capacity, train them, and then also model them in a manner that makes them appealing to the international market.
Exactly.
Right? Such qualities are required by the banks. Right?
Yes.
If the banks are able to see those qualities in SMEs, trust me, we'll be chasing them to give them money. All right? For instance, for Bank of Africa, and I believe other banks also do that, we do LPO financing. We also provide SSF for our SME clients. We do not require the rigorous, process that a standard corporate institutions would have to go through. All right, having your audited financial statement, having a well-established corporate governance. We know that they are not there, so that is what we use to make sure that we keep the wheels of SMEs running. But be that as it may, we are moving towards a digitized or a digital economy, where if at any point in time that I know that this particular business, I'll be able to locate where the business is. I know the people behind it. I know the nature of product that they put. I know the standard that they adhere to. Banks will be willing, to provide financial support.
So what you want is a policy from government that will support these SMEs, government or even the private sector or AGI, that will support these SMEs, and of course not just the SMEs, all other entities, to refine their books, to present their books in a way you are expecting them to, so that you can finance them.
Very well. If we have entities, that adhere to the proper accounting practices, that has standard operating procedures, that adhere to good corporate governance, all right, and all the other things that would ensure that the business continuity concept in every business is adhered to, why not?
But who should invest in that? Should it be you, the financial sector, or it should be AGI, or it should be a collaboration?
See, the reality is that we need to understand how our SME system works.
Yes.
If you have somebody producing a kwegbemi and he's selling in Togo, and he's making a revenue of 1 million Ghana cedis a month, she's never been to school, etc., etc. How do you expect this person to keep records?
And that's why I ask, who should invest in that? Because that person should be able to be trained or employ another person who will be able to do that for her, to keep the records. When you go to Kumasi Central Market now, I know that, some of your members have been trained enough, and there is still some form of formalization going on. They are picking students from KNUST, coming to take their stock for them and paying them daily rates of 50 cedis or 100 cedis. But then now they are able to calculate take stock properly and know how much they are making at the end of the day or at the end of the month, so that they can get financing. You know about that. Right, so you can learn and then I'll come back to you.
There are different approach to these. We should be able to be learning from the best practices. If you go to India, for example, they've got similar stories like ours, where there are SMEs who are not typically guys with bookkeeping and things like that. What they've done is, most of the banks would invest in training and organizing them. They may do it under their corporate social responsibility umbrella. So after training these people, help them formalize their business and then support them. But I'm saying that if everybody is waiting for these people to be formalized, we may not get there. That is why from AGI side of things, they are almost on daily basis, there are efforts to do things like this, but we need the banks also very actively involved.
You wanted to make a point. Kindly indulge me just a second. I'll come back to you, and please.
So you did ask a question. How do we get these SMEs to be compliant? Is it somebody's responsibility or is a collective responsibility? For us, it is a collective responsibility. Okay. Now, we as a bank, we are in the business of providing financial services, not only to dole out cash,
right,
but also to provide other services, advisory services. And let me give you a typical example. During the COVID era, COVID time, when we went into lockdown, and businesses were also supposed to, lockdown, we in Bank of Africa said no. We would engage our customers one-on-one, find out their state of affairs, find out how they are turning their, shutdown equipment into a usable, state. And when we engage some of them, we realized that, in fact, they were into export. And you remember that the supply chain was disrupted.
Yes.
And for that matter, they had some stock in the country, all right? They were not getting demand, and they were not also getting supplies. So what should they do? Upon looking into their operations, we told them that there was an opportunity in the country by way of what? Producing PPEs. And they never thought of that. And immediately we brought this idea, they jumped into it.
And they made money.
And they have over 1,000 employees. They never asked anybody to go home.
Right. Kindly indulge me again. Let me go for a quick break. When we come back, I'll pick your comments on the two statements we've made here. And I'll ask you about the program you are going to have. What time, what date, and who is participating, whether we are allowed to come. So we'll take a quick break. Because of time, when we come back, we'll just wrap up. So we'll be right back.
Are you tired as a consumer in Ghana when it comes to issues that confront you as a consumer? Worry no more. Kofi Capital, I'm here to give you the information, all that you need to make sure that your right is protected as a consumer. We have too many laws and agencies that should protect the right of the consumer. I'm here to give you the information that will help and assist you to get goods and services delivered to you without any worries. Watch The Capital Show on Metro TV.
Well, so you're welcome back from the break. We have been discussing AFTA and how our economy, in fact, I think we've been a bit biased about it, but it's also important because we are the headquarters of AFTA, how we can take advantage of it. And we still have Selassie Kofi Akom here in the studio. He's the CEO, Ghana International Trade and Trade Finance Conference. Chonam Klins Apelu is the AGI Greater Accra Chairman, and Musa Abdul Rahman is the head cross-border business synergy Bank of Africa. So let me come to you. You were to make a comment on what we had been discussing, but let me include, and we have to do this very speedily because of time. Let me include the single payment program or platform, which is, I don't know whether it's been set up or it's being set up because it's one of the major challenges we have. We don't have a common bank as a continent to support the AFTA, the effective running of the AFTA. But this will be important. We don't have a common passport to support effective movements in the whole of Africa. But for the payment system, we need it.
Well, thank you very much. There's a lot to say, but we'll try to box it quickly for your viewers this evening. As if you have experts here, you could appreciate that there's a lot to say.
Exactly.
Anyway, I think that governments for the past 5 years have deliberately been putting several infrastructures and ingredients to complement easy financial inclusiveness. And so another topic for another day probably will be financial inclusiveness.
Exactly.
And so deliberately you will see that the economic management team of our country have been working towards a certain specific ingredients or fundamentals to get our economic monetary staffs accurately. The frequent, stay with the policy rate that is further declining straight to interest rate gradually. The scrubbing away of some non-essential bank charges by the Bank of Ghana to make sure that the burden on the individual low-income earner is scrapped. Do you understand? And another time we could talk deeply about this. However, it is very important to know that you can't conclude on trade without payment, because when it's about moving goods and services, then what completes that ecosystem, what completes that cycle, what completes that chain will be payment, i.e. cross-border payment. And when we are especially talking about a unitary trade on the continent level, then there should be a single payment platform that should facilitate this. And you did even mention about visas. In fact, our regional seminars that we did started in February this year. That's GitFix regional seminars on the AFC FTA. One of the key persons we had as part of the team we crisscrossed the country with, who was immigration head, that is in international relation. And he spoke about how across board on the continent, they were waiving visas in many countries. And very soon, I'm sure they will keep on briefing the states about this. But it's very important to know that we are already also in the implementation stage of the Pan-African Payment and Settlement System.
Right.
And this is being spearheaded by Afrexim Bank. We have an objection to that. We've raised that on some few forums, including in March this year when I was in Windhoek, that's Namibia, where Wamkele was a speaker at a forum. I raised this again about our disagreement with Afrexim, driving this. However, the test implementation is being done by WAMI, that's the West African Monetary Institute. And so far, so good. We have invited the Director General, one of the panelists, to explain to Africa what his outfit is doing.
That's going to happen on the program.
It's going to happen on the program.
Hold on. Let me go to him and give you the final bit. Then we go into the program. But the single payment platform, how is it going to help you as an industry?
So it's a welcome news. It's a welcome news to have a single payment platform, because currently part of our biggest challenge in achieving this agreement has to do with payments. Number one, it's currency and currency conversion. You realize that every country in Africa has their own currency. So converting one currency to the other, it's a huge challenge.
Sometimes you have to do it in dollars before you bring it back to your cities.
That takes me to my next point, the dollar. And it's unfortunate that you have this beautiful agreement and you're still using the dollar as the international parity denominator. What it means is that we have to do every transaction using the dollar as a base. That's normally not a great news for a trading bloc. We need to quickly get our own currency. It's very urgent. And also has to do with movement of people. So there's one thing about movement of goods, which is what we've done. The movement of people. If you need to move to different countries in Africa, they are still asking for visa. And that's not cool. That's not acceptable.
Right.
We need to get to that stage where we should actually be one trading area where you travel without visa, etc.
Right. So let me come to you now, Rahman. I'm sure by this time you have your own platform because you have branches in other parts of Africa. And so this is very, very familiar with you. And so for you, it should be welcome news as an industry, financial sector.
Yes.
And coming from a bank which has its footings in other parts of Africa.
Very well. So as I mentioned in my earlier submissions, we are present in almost all these countries who are member countries. And we have the network So we have used our network to ensure that we facilitate the repatriation of export proceeds, without much stress to our export client. Despite the fact that there is a need to exchange the currencies, we do it so efficiently that the customers do not even feel it. But be that as it may, in terms of the common payment platform that is being spearheaded by AFTA, by Afrexim, the rationale behind it is the fact that when that system is fully rolled out, you don't need to bother yourself whether somebody is holding ZOF and wants to buy your product, or whether you have cedis. If you are making payment from here, you don't need to go and buy dollar, all right? Or you don't
just walk to Bank of Africa.
Okay, you walk to Bank of Africa. I want to pay for this particular goods, an equivalent of this and then you do your CD. Right?
Thank you very much, but kindly indulge me. We are having these discussions, and if you want to hear more or into details, there's a program coming up, and it is the 5th Ghana International Trade and Finance Conference, GetFIC, and the theme is facilitating trade and trade finance in AFTA, the role of the financial services sector. There is a sub-theme which says creating an enabling macroeconomic environment for AFTA. Unfortunately, we didn't even get into the macro of how Ghana is performing, the exchange rates, the macro indices, and how that is supporting AFTA. But the role of the central banks, and it looks like they are going to have Dr. Ernest Kwame Addison, who is the governor of the central bank, to be the major speaker. So, but let me ask you, why this, what is happening there, and who is able to attend?
Very well. So as I said quickly, last year we were humbled for His Excellency to send the senior minister to declare Accra as a commercial capital. An idea we made a strong case for, that because the Secretariat of the AFCFTA was situated here and trade across board was going to emanate from our very own city here in Accra, then it was fair and appropriate that Accra be named the commercial capital of Africa. And last year's theme was optimizing trade for Africans, the role of logistics infrastructure. And so as a team, we sat down to look at what the 2021, which is the 5th conference, was going to bring to the business community. And so we knew that the topical issue to discuss within the first phase of the implementation of the AFCFTA was also going to include a cross-border payment system, and how this was going to be carried out, and how this was going to be done perfectly to go hand in hand with the implementation phase. And so we got back to our stakeholders, and we judged, and we came up with just what you just said, the facilitating trade and trade finance in the AFCFTA, the role of the financial services sector. Then we looked at what could our how do you call it, governors, central bank governors play in facilitating easily this cross-border payment. Because I mean, talking about cross-border payment, there are issues that comes to play: currency,
regulation, policy issues,
I mean,
and
all of these things, and that gears up to the regulators. So the regulators are not involved in our conversation this year. Then we're going to be we're better off not holding this year's conference. So there are going to be 2 panels. Panel number 1 is going to be the governors panel, and we are humbled enough that we have our own governor, Governor Addison, who will be leading the central bank governor for West Africa Francophone. Okay. Governor Kone is coming all the way here with a delegation.
Wow.
Then we have the central bank governor of Central Africa Francophone, Governor Toli, also coming all the way with a delegation. The Namibian Central Bank Governor are going to make up the first panel. Second panel is going to have the Director General of WAMI, that's the West African Monetary Institute, the implementers of the Pan-African Payment and Settlement System, then ECOWAS Bank for Investment and Development. They are coming to listen to the business community and ask them the impact of the COVID in their life and facilitate.
Where is this happening?
At the Mervyn Peak Ambassador Hotel on the 27th of July, which is about 2 weeks from now.
27th of July.
And His Excellency the Vice President, once again, through His Excellency the President, has been delegated to open this conference at Mervyn Peak. And our proud sponsors here, Bank of Africa, the GIZ project for the AFCFTA, and Bank of Ghana itself.
That's a free advert for them. They have to come and pay for it.
But he's here. He's here.
Of course, he has been our panel tonight. My name is Kwesi Free. Tonam Cleans Apelu is the AGI Greater Accra Chairman. Selassie Kofi Akom is the CEO. Ghana International Trade and Finance Conference. Musa Abdul Rahman is the head cross-border business synergy Bank of Africa. My name is Kwesi Free. I have enjoyed the show. I hope you have to. Good evening to you all.
Metro TV, insightful and inspiring moments.
For over 2 decades, we have communicated with our audience through our stories. And in the past few years, a new wave of telling stories has emerged. We are evolving